Luis Ortiz versus Bryant Jennings. Excellent, excellent, excellent fight. Really what I like to see in terms of the heavyweight division. In Bryant Jennings, we have an established top 10 heavyweight. You could make an argument a top 5 heavyweight. I personally have him sort of 6th or 7th. I have him just outside the top class, but a very, very solid established top 10 heavyweight. Last fight, went the distance with Vladimir Klitschko, performed with credit. Before then, beat Arthur Spilka, got the win against Mike Perez. He's an impressive character, excellent athlete, good mover, showed an excellent chin against Vladimir Klitschko. Something that he'll learn from that fight and hopefully improve from. A guy who, despite suffering a loss in a world title fight, could still be at an early stage of his career. You know, no amateur background, not had too many fights, not got too many miles on the clock. We're looking at a guy in Bryant Jennings who should still be improving and developing from the experience he had against Vladimir Klitschko. In the other corner, we've got Luis Ortiz, 36 years old, highly, highly rated Cuban amateur. Nowhere near the top 10 in terms of his resume. You know, who's he beaten? The best guys, the faded Monty Barrett, etc. Recently coming off an early stoppage win, he beat Latif Kayode, probably is actually his best win, although that was classed as a no contest as he tested positive for steroids. But Luis Ortiz, whilst he doesn't have the resume of Bryant Jennings, the way he's been taking care of business has been most interesting. And I've covered him on a number of different videos on my channel. Despite the fact he's not got too many big names on his resume, with his amateur background, with his age, he's an experienced operator. He fights with a great balance to his work. He's very light on his feet for a big guy. He moves very, very nicely. He picks his shots very nicely. An excellent jab. Jabs high, jabs low. Southpaw. Awkward southpaw. And seemingly a very, very hard hitter. I mean, the way he took Latif Kayode out in one round, even though that was classed as a no contest, clearly this guy has dynamite in his gloves. And the way he sets people up with the long 1-2 and that southpaw straight, yeah, he's a really, really interesting fighter. Talked about the pros for both guys. Let's talk about the negatives. Luis Ortiz, obviously one of the negatives being the lack of opposition. Is this a big step up in class? I mean, let's face it, you wouldn't put Joseph Parker or Anthony Joshua or Dillian White or Hughie Fury in with Bryant Jennings. He'd be classed as too sterner a test at this stage of their careers. But Luis Ortiz probably has a lesser record than those guys. He's been so easily matched up to this stage. So I think that's a big question, the step up in class. You'd hope that his amateur background, his age, will combat that and make it a good fight. Nevertheless, that is a concern. I guess my bigger concern is Luis Ortiz doesn't look, he's got that typical Cuban heavyweight look that we've seen with Solis, we've seen with Mike Perez. How seriously is he taking it? Bryant Jennings seems to have an excellent chin, and Luis Ortiz has been running through opponents, knocking them out in a few rounds, not going late in fights. What are we going to do if Bryant Jennings is still there in the later rounds, if he's there in the championship rounds of this fight? He's moving because he's an athlete, he's got stamina, his chin's holding up. How will Luis Ortiz, carrying all that weight and not having experience of going rounds, being late in his career for a professional without that experience, how will he cope? For me, that's my most major concern against Luis Ortiz. I mean, he looks like a guy with a good chin. I've heard he's got a good chin. But also, whilst Bryant Jennings isn't the biggest puncher in the world, Ortiz has not been in with anything like the quality of Bryant Jennings as a pro. Could it be too much too soon for him as a professional? That's the worry. With Bryant Jennings, my concerns about him, light punching. Will Luis Ortiz be able to walk through his jab? Will Luis Ortiz effectively be able to measure him and land on him? There's still some questions for me with Bryant Jennings defensively. Even though he showed an excellent chin against Vladimir Klitschko, you don't want to be taking shots against Luis Ortiz. I'm not saying Ortiz punches as hard as Klitschko, but this fight could go to points, and you don't want a guy like Ortiz with that amateur background to build up a lead on points. It's a really, really intriguing fight for me. The winner of this fight probably cements themselves as a lower level top 5 heavyweight. And the winner of this fight has serious opportunity in the heavyweight division as I see it. You know, if Bryant Jennings wins, he's going to be right in the mix of a fight with Deontay Wilder, a fight with Tyson Fury, Povetkin. You know, he's up there with those sort of names in my mind. If Luis Ortiz wins it, then, you know, it really is the springboard for him. You know, the springboard for him to become a world champion potentially, and that option will likely become available to him if he, you know, if he does beat Bryant Jennings. It'll be very, very strong form and boost him towards the top of the table. You know, what's interesting is, whilst you would think that, I'd be interested if anyone knows how bookmakers have priced this fight up. I'd love to see what the betting line is. What's interesting is, you'd expect Bryant Jennings to be the favourite. He's the better known fighter. He's fought at a higher level. He's the more recognisable name. But as I understand it, Golden Boy have signed up Luis Ortiz, and he's working closely with those guys. So you wonder if Bryant Jennings has been matched here as an opponent. I mean, there was talk of this fight some time ago, but Bryant Jennings didn't take the fight. I wonder if he was hoping to get a matchup with Deontay Wilder at a time. And apparently he was being, you know, quite the big I am when it comes to fight purses, and saying what a big deal he is, and saying he needs A, B, C, D, E, F, G before he gets in the ring. Well, anyway, now he's here. It's an excellent, excellent fight. There was talk about Ortiz fighting Bermane Stiverne. I actually prefer this fight. I think it's a more interesting stylistic matchup. I think Bryant Jennings brings the fight. He's got movement. He's an athlete. Whereas I think Luis Ortiz is probably the more technician, you know, the more sort of chess player, if you like. He's going to be possibly looking to open the gaps and to find that killer punch, whereas Bryant Jennings is going to be more of a volume operator using an athletic approach. I think it's a fascinating, fascinating fight. Honestly, I can't split them. And it's very rare I say that, you know, very rare I say that. I was on the fence when it came to my Ward Kovalev video the other day. And to be honest, I'm on the fence with this one. You know, neither winning this fight would surprise me. If you put an absolute gun to my head, I'm going to pick Luis Ortiz. I often talk about this in my videos. I think momentum is so, so key in boxing. Luis Ortiz, I see him as on an upward trajectory. He's been on fire in terms of his form. This is a big, big opportunity for him. This is the biggest fight of his life. Bryant Jennings, he's coming off a loss. A good loss, but a loss nonetheless. He's being brought in as an opponent, you know, potentially for the first time of his career that he's being viewed as an opponent rather than a contender. How motivated is he going to be, having had that big fight with Klitschko, to fight Luis Ortiz? And fundamentally, whilst he performed with credit against Klitschko, the reason most of us think he lost is that lack of experience, that lack of amateur game, the fact that he isn't, you know, he hasn't fought enough pro fights. Even though Luis Ortiz is seen as the rookie in these fights, you know, with his age, with his amateur background, is he actually going to be the more experienced, calm operator in there? Real 50-50 fight. I really struggle to choose between them, but I possibly lean towards Luis Ortiz. Can't wait for this one. Really, really interested. And I'm really interested to hear people's views in this fight, you know, especially considering that I can't make my mind up. Let me know your thoughts. How do you see it going? How do you rate Ortiz? How do you rate Jennings? How do you rate the betting? Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. I'd appreciate it.